Hey everyone, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. Before I share my conversation with Lou Redmond, which you're going to love, he's amazing, I just want to give a quick announcement. First off, thank you so much for listening to this podcast and for all of the support. It really means a lot. I'm extremely excited to announce the official launch of my new website, drkaseyjohnson.com. That's DRKASEY Johnson.com. My website will have all of the Unlock Wellness podcast information, episodes, pictures, and then more information about the guests that come on the show, as well as a blog. So please check it out and feel free to share any posts that I put up on the site on social media. And also, if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe to the Unlock Wellness podcast on iTunes and write a positive review. It really helps me out a lot. So, but thank you so much again for all of the support. And I hope you loved today's episode with Lou Redmond. He has an amazing story. So enjoy. Welcome to the Unlock Wellness podcast. I'm Dr. Casey, and today's guest is Lou Redmond. And I was introduced to Lou through my friend Dr. Edward Camacho, who was actually a guest on episode 7. So go check out his episode if you haven't yet. He's great. But he was just like, Casey, you need to check out my friend Lou. He has an amazing story. So we got it set up, and here we are. So, but Lou has completely transformed his life. He was in a job that he hated. He was living an extremely unhealthy lifestyle and dealing with addiction. And he was able to flip his life completely upside down and is now living a life of health and of purpose. And he's also written a book about his journey. So extremely excited for him to get to share his story with you guys. So Lou, thank you so much for coming on. I'm excited to have you.
Casey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, but I know you have a pretty big story that you share. So I'll just let you just jump right into it.
Sure thing. I would say that I guess you could start where growing up. I think when we're kids, we have a lot of what we're meant to do later in life, or we're really closest to what I call our truth. I think we're just natural. We're always playing. We're in the moment. Days just go on forever, and we just kind of go to one thing, and we're not in our heads, right? We don't have the anxiety of what happens when we start getting older. So going back to that kid, that 7, that 8-year-old, I had these really big dreams, and I always remember having big dreams of. At that time, it was around sports and, having the epic Game 7 in a baseball game, like World Series. I was someone that excelled at really anything that I would put my mind to. And I always knew that, I was a good kid. I always believed in doing the right things. And I was raised in a pretty good household compared to a lot of people. And I just started to, I guess, as I got older, drift away from that kid. And I think it happens with a lot of people, maybe around the time of middle school, early on in high school, where you're just kind of starting to get your social grounding going.
Yeah, and you start caring what people think and all of that.
Yeah, exactly. You start having you're having to prove yourself or to fit in. I think that was a big theme in my life, has been just feeling the need to be part of the cool crowd or to fit in. And when I had a moment, I think, I'm realizing where this really happened in my life. And I think where a lot of times we can trace back in our own lives, for who's ever listening to this, there's a moment that happens that kind of that when we're younger, that changes our belief system. And we work to either defend against it, or we work in a way that might not be serving us the best. And for example, I'll give you, for what mine was, is that I think I was always, quote unquote, part of the cool crowd or whatever. And then there was a time in middle school where I was starting to get bullied, and I felt like I was kind of starting to become an outcast. And I really went into this hole, and I really couldn't deal with that. And so what I did was I did all I can to be part of that that crowd. And at the time, I think it was freshman year in high school when it really started. I started to, from my high school was to, to start drinking and start to getting involved in like the partying crowd, and really started to, at that time, take my focus away from baseball, from basketball, and to start putting it into, really, I started to care more about like, hey, we're gonna go drink after this, or hey, we're gonna, we're getting together, and like that was where I guess my fun started going, and that was really the start, I'd say, of like where my purpose started to shift. I still was doing good at sports. Like I always say, my story was I didn't like, totally just go off the deep end and I was like drinking every day in high school. And even through college and through my my working career, it was always about getting the job done, doing a good job. But really, because you're doing the good job, you get to go and have fun and drink and do whatever. So I did well in college, and I did well in high school, and I actually went to college to be a PGA golf professional because I started getting into golf and really became passionate about that. But still, it wasn't like my main focus, and especially in college. College, the partying really started to take up a notch, and I would, on weekends when I have a tournament, I'd be like so hungover, just not even wanting to be there, and really was taking away from what I at that time wanted to do, and really again was just my focus, my purpose was just in a wrong place. So through college, I started to get it. Just the partying continued I went to Penn State University, so it's known as like a big party school. Did the fraternity scene, and it was pretty atypical of how you would think that would be, and I continued to kind of fall into that trap of wanting to be like everyone else, because I thought that was, had the way to fit in.
Right.
Looking at it now, it's like actually the opposite. Like you actually want to find your uniqueness. You want to find your expression that you're not fitting in is actually going to give you your happiest life. But
right. And it's always the opposite too. Once you like in high school, everybody wants to fit in, and then about right now, everybody wants to be different. So it always switches. And
I know we got to learn that. We got to learn that earlier, right?
Yeah.
So I continued to take the partying up, and I started getting involved into like the raving scene and going to like these big house EDM shows, and started getting into like the recreational drug use that came along with that side. And that really took me right after college to San Diego. I moved out there for an internship, and I continued to, I'd say, chase that high and chase the weekend party. Like I said, it was get the job done Monday through Friday, get the job done, go to work. But it was really about getting to the weekend and, using the weekend as most of the time in San Diego was a good place for Friday to, even through Sunday to be basically like a weekend bender. And
what was the internship?
So the internship was for a golf company. I realized that I didn't want to work at a country club, so I moved into working at a golf company. And the company, like I know you mentioned that I hated my job. I'll caveat that I didn't realize I hated myself, but then I realized when I started loving myself that changed everything. So the company was actually a cool company to work for. But the job I was doing was very unpurposeful. I took like an accounts receivable job when I had nothing. That was nothing of my background up to that point. It was just like, okay, cool. I got my foot in the door on this golf company, and hopefully I'll work my way up the ladder as most people see themselves doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that for about 2 years, and as the partying got more intense. And through the drug use, I continued to get myself like weekends just into these really, really depressing states, and like just like numb to the world around me, and just really was understanding like I always say that I didn't have like this one rock bottom moment. It was almost like a like weekend after week out of these rock bottom moments. And then finally, it was just, one weekend, I think it was Memorial Day weekend of 2014. So not crazy long ago, 2014, it was like 6 a.m. in the morning. I was still wide awake. My girlfriend was next to me. She had been studying for grad school all night. She was sound asleep, and I wasn't going to be getting any sleep for any time soon. And I was just like sitting there, laying there in just this depression. And I just realized in this moment that something wasn't right. And I knew what I was doing to my body, and there's just something needed to change. Like I didn't know what it was at that time, but I could finally like see the road signs that were like, this is not the right way to go.
Yeah, just a crazy moment of awareness.
Exactly. So I just made it like a little decision to myself. I'm like, okay, like we just need to stop this. Like I don't know what's going to happen, but whatever, like we just need to stop doing this. And yeah, so I made this decision, and it was like the craziest thing because I couldn't have really forecasted how this would have ever happened. But a week and a half later, through like a friend's connection in like another city. It's this whole other story of how I got connected to this group. But it was a Friday night at 6 p.m. There was this like group of people met. It was a time where I'd normally be like on the beach, like drinking margaritas. And it's a group that meets they talk about business, they talk about their lives, they talk about health, they talk about relationships. It's just this what was and they all really like own their own businesses. They were like this entrepreneurial type of group.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I sat in this meeting, and I'm this kid who's like working accounts receivable, just partying every week, and like sitting in this meeting feeling like, who am I? Who are these people? Like they're in their 20s, like they're super successful, and but they're also, it's not even just they're successful. You can just tell that they're like meaningful, and they care about like life in a way that like I know I was capable of. But I think in that meeting I realized how like I didn't even know that like people like this existed. Like I thought I was around like the norm. I was like the norm of my age, because that's kind of where our awareness is. We'll start kind of bringing those people, like we live in our own bubbles, right?
Right.
So it shook me. So this meeting really is what shook me to like my core. And afterwards, I could barely speak. Like I was like, I don't even deserve to be here. I have nothing to offer to these people. Like,
what was it that shook you the most? Was it just the drive, or like just the passion that they had, or did it just motivate you to like just want to do something else, or what was it that really got you?
Yeah, I think it was like my own fear and insecurity of like, if I don't, it's coming back to that feeling of needing to fit in. So once I got into that group and I was the one that clearly did not fit in, like you know who who Tony Robbins is, right?
Yeah.
So in the group, they start talking about like an event. They start talking about a Tony Robbins event, and everyone's like getting all excited, talking about like walking across hot coals, and I'm there like, I'm just like, okay, like when someone tells like a joke and like you're the only one that doesn't get it.
You're not part of the inside joke.
I'm not part of the inside joke, and I was like, I had to ask them. I was like, who's Tony Robbins? And to now looking back at it, I'm actually going to a Tony Robbins event in like a month.
Are
so
you?
It's kind of
I'm
funny.
super jealous. That'll be awesome. Is it in California?
No, I'm in Jersey now, and it's actually in
it's local then. That's cool.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, it's right outside New York City.
Nice.
So. Yeah, so funny. Like and they were they were great about it. They weren't like, who are you or why are you here? But but I felt that, you know what I mean? Like, and that's how I believe we project, we project our judgment of how if we think other people are judging us, it's really us judging ourselves. And then that's what was me in that room. I felt like everyone was judging me, and I was again like that little kid who didn't fit in. And afterwards I sat at a bay, and I reflected on the meeting, and man, it was a really powerful reflection, because I felt this like new energy. Like I didn't really know what happened in the meeting, and I didn't even know if I'd be welcomed back to that meeting. But like during the meeting, they were talking about this one guy in the meeting read like it was June of that year, and he's read 67 books so far. And everyone's talking about these books they read, and I'm like, I haven't read a book in like, who reads books, right? Like I just watch like 5 hours of Seinfeld, and I actually brought that up at the meeting. I was like, I kind of asked for some guidance, because like my first time I had the courage to talk, because I explained that my life was just kind of like, I didn't really tell him about the partying, but I explained that all I did was I woke up, I went to work, and I came home and I just, watched TV for 5 hours.
Hmm.
And, you repeat that. And it was so normal at the time. And people were, and the advice that I got that I still use to this day is they told me to like stop watching TV, to start reading, to start surrounding yourself with the right people, and to start pushing your comfort zone. So this is me. I was sitting on the reflecting after this meeting, and I just had this moment of just like I felt like life like was like, hey Lou, like this is what you could have done, like this is where you could have been, but like you can do it now, right? And it
Yeah,
was
it's not too late. And it was cool that you were like brave enough in that situation to even ask for advice because most people wouldn't when they feel that uncomfortable.
yeah, and I felt like life was just like handing me this this new like this like it was like a challenge to me, and really what I say is like on that night is really when I started, well, I was drifting through life, and on that night I was like, I am living with I'm just started living with purpose. I didn't say that, but I look back at it now, I was like, that's exactly when I started living with purpose. And it's and from that, like luckily I wrote an email to the founder and was like, hey, like this changed me, I would love to just come back. And luckily they let me continue to come back, and I met every Friday and every week. I mean, going to that meeting was exploding my comfort zone because I was still felt like very like I would be shaking in the meeting, literally. And I kept going back, and I kept started reading, and I started to like even though I stopped doing like the drug use, I was still drinking, and I found myself drinking less. And then when I would go out to bars and like not really be drunk, and I would see everyone around me like super wasted, I'd be like, was this me? Like I don't this isn't like I'm not vibing with this anymore.
Yeah.
And I started getting up earlier, started going for runs on Saturday mornings. So started feeling this like natural high for life that I didn't realize is how we're supposed to feel, but at the time it was just like so new and so amazing. And I continued to continue just try new things. Like I started journaling. I was reading books that I really was getting into and was reflecting about them. And then I got into meditation just because it was a big like they were all saying like successful people, or it was like a habit of other people were suggesting it. So I tried it out, and I always say like I didn't. It was tough. I didn't really like wasn't really into it. Like but I still kind of tried it here and there. But it was through that I started doing it a little more and a little more, and it was from meditation that I kind of experienced an I think a even bigger transformation of getting to know myself, and ultimately led me in the company. And you can reverse this too, like if anyone, for people that might want to like leave their job or whatever, like once you start changing yourself, like your job's going to change anyway. Not even you in your job will change, because you will start coming to work and you'll start having a positive impact on people. You'll start being happier, and other people around you will be happier. And you're like, this place isn't as bad as I thought it was. And then I actually ended up getting a promotion at work. I was doing really great. I moved into like a marketing position, and I was feeling it was amazing. All these things were going awesome. And then it was through having an intense, for me, what it was an intense spiritual experience that really led me to a different level of transformation, and ultimately led me to a really crazy story. It's part of why I wrote the book. Led me to literally 2 months after I got this promotion. It was January of 2015. I kind of had this, what I would say, like a call that I just needed to quit the job, and just like I didn't even know what I was going to do. I had all this like love inside of me, and I ended up on January 6th of 2015 without like any 2-week notice, I had no money saved, I had no plans on what I was actually going to do. But that morning I wrote an email to my entire company announcing that I was like leaving immediately. And I closed my computer down that morning, and I went to go reflect on this experience that I was kind of experiencing. It was really this amounts of love and like excitement for this new life. And I had the police officer show up to my home And I'm like, what's going on, officer? And I went on airplane mode to kind of like bask in this moment.
Yeah.
And because it was so out of left field, because I was doing so well. I got a promotion. Like I had just won the best employee award like a month, like literally 2 weeks before that. And they thought, so they were afraid that my email was a suicide letter. So they were
Wow.
sending the police to my home. And that was a freaking crazy
Did
day.
did the cops think you were lying when you're like, no, I swear? Like,
Well, what's so ironic about it, I was like, I've literally never felt better in my life. Like this is
yeah.
like the total opposite. Like you're trying to like hold me down here. And
Yeah.
it was a weird dichotomy, and it was like kind of weird to, it was an intense, very intense day, and intense for everyone. It's Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. in corporate America, and they're getting this email from this someone they know and trust. I was doing all these amazing things in the company, and just saying like, I found a higher calling, which just might, it doesn't, it's not going to resonate. It's not going to resonate with everyone.
Right,
So they
right.
thought I was about to like, they didn't know. So it was an intense day, and it was from that point of really going into the unknown. And like I didn't have a plan for a job. I couldn't, like like I said, I had no money saved. But it was from that, like taking that, for anyone that has that instinct or that gut, like to follow your heart, and like you get scared and you overthink it. Like it was from actually taking that step, like actually pushing, like like jumping off the cliff per se.
Mm-hmm.
Like you see how you are caught, you see how you're supported, and in the past 2.5 years since I did that, I've been supported every step of the way in ways that I could not have imagined. And at the beginning it was still an intense time of like ups and downs and self-reflection. Like what am I going to do? Like I thought I was going to join the Peace Corps, but that didn't really pan out. But what am I going to do with what's going to happen? And I was like, I need to write this story of just like the transformation that happened so quickly from like what I was doing into like what happened, and ultimately this final experience of what happened. And so I set out to write this book, and that's been a journey in itself. And it's crazy to see it just not too long ago, a couple months ago, finally published and out, and seeing what I've gotten into teaching and guiding and meditation groups and doing all types of stuff. As far as I'm doing like a yoga teacher training right now, so I'm kind of incorporating that in with the whole like wellness of mind, wellness of body, wellness of spirit. And I think it's all starting to tie in, and with really my message that I think that everyone can do something, like they can follow their dreams, can follow their heart, and they will be supported. And it's what they're meant to do, because it's in doing that you feel like the greatest feeling, that you can't feel it unless you do it. So it's like you have to like take the step before getting the reward.
Right. And when I think when you find that right path, everything falls in place a lot easier. And the more things that you incorporate, like you were saying, they all are going to intertwine together, because it's things that you are passionate about and that you're putting a lot of work into. And that's really awesome about the book. Do you want to like talk about it and like the name of it and the best way for people to find that and to purchase it?
Sure. So the name of the book is Find Your Truth, and it's a modern day story about letting go of addiction and finding life's purpose. And the story is really, I go into the first, so it's broken down into 3 sections. The first section is self-sabotage, and I kind of explain the ways that I was self-sabotaging myself, but also I reflected on to like how other people can it's always relatable back to you, like who's ever reading it.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second section is like self-exploration. So I kind of take you through the time of like at the self-sabotaging ends, and we talked about it here on this podcast, of me like reaching that point of needing to change and finding this group. The group is called Junto Global, and finding this group and just starting like my exploration and like changing what I was doing. And that's really more of my like, hey, this is what I was, the practical side of things. Like this is what I was doing, this is what you can do. And then the final section is called self-discovering. That gets more into the meditation and gets more into kind of the final experiences that I was just explaining to you. And the book actually ends literally on the last day that I quit my job and went into the unknown. So I'm excited about it, and I'm also excited to see how, I do plan on writing future books
That's awesome.
play into like what I've learned in the whole time period, like the past 2.5 years, and how it's one thing to find your truth, I'd say, but like that's almost easier than living your truth. Like
Right. That's just
living your
the
truth,
first step.
that's the first step.
Yeah.
It was life just started after that point. So living it is like that's going to take a lot. It's going to really it's all to make you a better person, right? It's all to you got to get brought up to the person that is going to be able to receive that kind of dream that you have. And so it's the living your truth that there's the deepest and kind of like the most appreciative, I think, of the gifts that you get.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really awesome that you're doing a lot with meditation. What are so like the classes that you're leading, are any of those online or are all of those like locally in person, or how are you doing those?
Yeah, so the classes that I am leading are I have a group that meets in New Jersey, so those
Hmm.
are in person. But I do have a few meditations up on my website. But if you have the meditation app, Insight Timer, I have a good amount of meditations that are on there. So if you don't have the
Cool.
app, it's such a cool app to download to get you started for meditation. They have meditation for beginners. They have meditation for everything. You kind of just type in what you're looking for, and it'll pop up something. But you can also look for me on there, and you
Awesome.
can find some of my meditations. But I do plan, I think, on doing some more like online, getting a community together and providing some more content as far as that. But that's definitely like I'm kind of seeing where that's playing in, but it's definitely to come.
Yeah, I really think you should. I mean, it's such a growing. I mean, you look at like apps like Headspace, and they're killing it, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's really helping a lot of people. I personally, I love that app a lot. I'm excited to check out Insight and to check out yours. But yeah, I think you should definitely do more with that. I think you would do
Yeah.
great.
No, it's so true. It's like it's only going to be continuing to get people when people realize that like this is not just it has so many effects on your mind, on the
Hmm.
body, and on like it's just gonna it's super exciting to see where it's going.
Yeah, I mean, it really is becoming more mainstream. I think for a while it was considered kind of like hippie but I mean,
Right.
there is like research showing like all of the, like on the cellular level and on
Yeah.
like with your brain, like with the connections, like it really does have a huge impact on your body on a cellular level, which is really, really cool. So I encourage people to check out the different research with that because it really does help in a lot of ways.
So much. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Lou, what is the best way for people to follow you on social media and to keep up with your website, and then also the best way to purchase your book?
Sure. So you can go to my website, just louredmond.com, and you can see more info on the book there, read some reviews, and then you can purchase through Amazon. So either through my website, you can get there, just amazon.com, and then just look for Find Your Truth or Lou Redmond, you'll find me. And on Instagram or Twitter, I say I'm really more active on Instagram, is at Lou Speaks Truth. And if you want to connect on Facebook, find me up, and I'd love to connect there as well.
Cool. And just Lou Redmond on
Just Lou
Facebook.
Redmond. Yep.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on. And it's a new thing that I'm going to start doing with every podcast guest. But what's one piece of advice that you could give our audience that was your biggest takeaway from everything you've gone through? If you could just tell somebody one thing, what would it be?
I would tell them that your inside is going to reflect your outside. So work on yourself, and then your environment will get better.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much, Lou.
Thanks, Casey. It was great to be on.